3 weeks before my wedding, the man I loved for 6 years sat across from me in a crowded coffee shop and destroyed my entire future with a single sentence. "I can't marry you." At first, I thought he was joking. Then he told me the truth. He had fallen in love with someone else. Not just someone else, a wealthy woman whose family owned luxury hotels across the country. In less than 10 minutes, everything we had built together was gone. The wedding venue was booked. The invitations had been sent. My dress was hanging in my closet. And yet, he walked away without even looking back. I cried for months. I thought my life was over. But what he didn't know was that losing him would become the best thing that ever happened to me. Because 3 years later, while driving through downtown Manhattan with his new wife, he looked up at a giant billboard and nearly crashed his car. The woman smiling down from that billboard was me.
If someone had asked me at 28 years old whether I was happy, I would have answered yes without hesitation. My name is Emily Carter, and at the time, I believed I had everything I needed. A stable job. A cozy apartment. A supportive family. And most importantly, a man I loved with all my heart. His name was Ryan. We met during our final year of college. Unlike the dramatic love stories you see in movies, ours began quietly. One rainy afternoon, I was struggling to carry a box of books across campus when someone suddenly appeared beside me. "Need help?" I looked up and saw a tall guy wearing a faded blue hoodie. That was Ryan. The beginning of everything. Back then, neither of us had money. We survived on instant noodles and cheap coffee. Some nights we shared one meal because that was all we could afford. But we were happy. Or at least I thought we were. Ryan used to tell me that one day we'd build an incredible life together. He had dreams. Big dreams. He wanted success. Luxury. Recognition. He wanted the kind of life he never had growing up. I admired his ambition. I supported him through every failure and every setback. When his first business idea failed, I was there. When he lost his job, I was there. When he doubted himself, I was there. I believed love meant standing beside someone during their worst moments. And for 6 years, that's exactly what I did. When Ryan proposed, I cried so hard I couldn't even say yes properly. It happened during a weekend trip to the mountains. He got down on one knee beside a lake and told me he couldn't imagine spending his life with anyone else. At the time, I believed every word. I called my parents immediately. My mother cried. My father congratulated Ryan. Friends celebrated with us. Everything felt perfect. The wedding was scheduled for October. Exactly 8 months away. I spent countless evenings planning every detail. Flowers. Music. Decorations. Guest lists. Colors. The future. I poured my heart into every decision because I truly believed I was planning the happiest day of my life. I had no idea I was actually planning a disaster. The first warning signs appeared 4 months before the wedding. Ryan became distant. Not dramatically. Not enough to immediately alarm me. Just small changes. He answered messages slower. Worked later. Cancelled plans more often. At first, I blamed stress. His career was finally taking off. He had recently joined a luxury hospitality company and seemed determined to impress everyone there. Whenever I asked if everything was okay, he'd smile. Just busy. I believed him. Because that's what people in love do. They trust. Unfortunately, trust can also make you blind. And I was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Looking back now, I can pinpoint the exact moment things started to fall apart. At the time, it seemed insignificant. Just another ordinary Tuesday evening. Ryan came home later than usual. I was sitting on the couch reviewing wedding invitations when he walked through the door. His face looked different. Not tired. Not stressed. Excited. The kind of excitement people try to hide but can't. "Good day?" I asked. He loosened his tie and smiled. "Yeah. Pretty good." Something about that smile felt unfamiliar. But I ignored the feeling. A few minutes later, his phone buzzed. Ryan immediately grabbed it. Too quickly. His eyes dropped to the screen. Then he smiled again. There it was. That same smile. The one I hadn't seen directed at me in months. "Who is it?" I asked casually. "A coworker." He locked the screen immediately. I remember feeling a strange twist in my stomach. A tiny warning. A whisper. But I pushed it away. Because I trusted him. Over the next several weeks, the changes became impossible to ignore. Ryan was suddenly obsessed with work. Business dinners. Networking events. Weekend meetings. Late-night calls. The wedding seemed less important to him every day. Whenever I tried discussing plans, he looked distracted. Disconnected. Like his mind was somewhere else. One Saturday afternoon, we were meeting with a photographer. A meeting we'd scheduled months earlier. Ryan cancelled 30 minutes before. Again. I sat alone in the photographer's office feeling embarrassed. I made excuses for him. Work emergency. Important client. Unexpected problem. The truth was much worse. I just didn't know it yet. A month later, I finally met the woman. Her name was Victoria Sinclair. The daughter of a hotel empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. At the company's annual gala, Ryan introduced us. The moment I saw her, I understood why every man in the room couldn't stop staring. Victoria was beautiful. Elegant. Confident. The kind of woman who looked like she belonged on magazine covers. She wore a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. And when she smiled, people paid attention. Including Ryan. Especially Ryan. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. But throughout the evening, I kept noticing them together. Laughing. Talking. Sharing private jokes. Looking at each other a little too long. Every time I approached, the conversation seemed to stop. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. A terrible feeling settled deep inside my chest. For the first time in 6 years, I wondered if Ryan was lying to me. The next morning, I hated myself for thinking it. I wanted to believe in him. In us. In the future we'd planned. But intuition can be difficult to silence. And mine was screaming. A few days later, I received confirmation. Not from Ryan. From social media. One of Ryan's co-workers posted photos from a company dinner. In the background of one picture, Ryan and Victoria sat together. Far away from everyone else. Leaning close. Smiling. Looking more like a couple than co-workers. I stared at that image for nearly an hour. Trying to find another explanation. Trying to convince myself I was overreacting. Deep down, I already knew. That evening, when Ryan came home, I showed him the photo. His reaction told me everything. He froze. Just for a second. But it was enough. "What is this?" I asked quietly. "It's nothing." Nothing. The favorite word of guilty people. I looked directly into his eyes. Are you having an affair? His face changed. Not anger. Not shock. Fear. And in that moment, my heart started breaking. Because innocent people answer immediately. Ryan didn't. Instead, he looked away. And silence filled the room. The silence lasted only a few seconds. But it felt like forever. Then he finally spoke. No. The answer came too slowly. Too carefully. Too rehearsed. For the first time in our relationship, I didn't believe him. And once trust cracks, it never sounds the same again. Over the following weeks, everything became worse. Ryan grew colder. More distant. Less interested in our future. One night I found him staring at our wedding invitation samples. Not with excitement. With hesitation. As though he was questioning everything. I sat beside him. Do you still want to marry me? The question hung in the air. His eyes filled with guilt. And that's when I knew. Before he said a single word. I knew. Because the man who once couldn't wait to marry me suddenly looked trapped. Like someone standing at a crossroads. One path led to the life we'd built together. The other led somewhere else. And deep inside, I was terrified I already knew which path he wanted. Chapter 3, The Day My World Collapsed. 3 weeks before our wedding, Ryan called me during lunch. His voice sounded strange. We need to talk. Those 4 words instantly made my stomach drop. People never say those words when they have good news. I asked where he was. He suggested a small coffee shop downtown. The same coffee shop where we'd spent countless afternoons during college. The same place where we used to dream about our future. I arrived 10 minutes early. Ryan was already there. Sitting by the window. Looking nervous. The moment I saw his face, I knew. Something terrible was about to happen. And for the first time in 6 years, I wasn't wrong. I sat down across from Ryan and immediately noticed he couldn't look at me. His coffee sat untouched. His hands were clasped together so tightly that his knuckles had turned white. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. The noise of the coffee shop faded into the background. The laughter. The conversations. The music. Everything seemed distant. Like the world already knew something I didn't. Finally, Ryan took a deep breath. Emily. The way he said my name made my heart sink. I felt it. That horrible feeling people get seconds before their lives change forever. What's wrong? I asked. He stared at the table. Then came the sentence that shattered everything. I can't marry you. For a moment, I genuinely thought I had heard him wrong. The words didn't make sense. Not together. Not after 6 years. Not 3 weeks before our wedding. I forced a nervous laugh. What? Ryan finally looked at me. His eyes were full of guilt. And that terrified me more than anything. I can't go through with it. The room started spinning. I remember gripping the edge of my chair. Trying to steady myself. Trying to breathe. Why? My voice barely sounded like my own. Ryan looked away. Then he said the words that would haunt me for months. Because I'm in love with someone else. I felt something break inside me. Not physically. Emotionally. A fracture so deep that I thought I'd never recover. I stared at him. Waiting for him to say it was a mistake. A joke. A misunderstanding. But he didn't. Instead, he continued. It's Victoria. There it was. The name I'd been dreading. The name I already knew. Yet somehow hearing it out loud felt 1,000 times worse. I couldn't stop staring at him. At the man I had supported through every struggle. Every failure. Every difficult moment. The man I planned to spend the rest of my life with. And suddenly he felt like a stranger. How long? I whispered. Ryan hesitated. Too long. Several months. Several months. While I was planning our wedding. While I was choosing flowers. Sending invitations. Talking about our future. He had already fallen in love with someone else. The humiliation hit almost as hard as the heartbreak. I wasn't just losing him. I had been living a lie. Tears filled my eyes. Did you ever love me? The question escaped before I could stop it. Ryan closed his eyes. I did. Did past tense. One tiny word. One devastating word. I nodded slowly. Trying desperately not to cry in front of him. But my body wasn't listening anymore. The tears came anyway. And Ryan just sat there. Watching. I never wanted to hurt you. I almost laughed. What a ridiculous thing to say. He had just destroyed my future. Humiliated me. Broken my heart. And somehow he thought those words helped. Then he delivered the final blow. Victoria and I are serious. Serious. Of course they were. Why else would he throw away 6 years? I stood up. My legs felt weak. Everything inside me felt broken. Goodbye, Ryan. He looked shocked. As though he expected a conversation. A negotiation. A chance to explain. But there was nothing left to discuss. The wedding was over. The relationship was over. The future was over. I walked out of that coffee shop and never looked back. The moment I reached my car, I completely fell apart. I cried harder than I ever had in my entire life. Not because I lost Ryan. But because I lost the life I thought I was going to have. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. Canceling a wedding is heartbreaking. Canceling a wedding because your fiancé left you for another woman is humiliating. Every phone call felt like torture. Every explanation reopened the wound. Friends didn't know what to say. Family tried to help. Nothing worked. Every morning I woke up hoping it had all been a nightmare. Every morning reality returned. The wedding dress remained in my closet. A painful reminder of everything I'd lost. Some days I couldn't even get out of bed. I stopped answering messages. Stopped going out. Stopped caring. The worst part wasn't the heartbreak. It was the feeling of rejection. The feeling that I wasn't enough. Victoria was richer. More glamorous. More connected. And no matter how much I tried to avoid the comparison, it haunted me. For months I questioned everything. My appearance. My personality. My worth. I wondered what she had that I didn't. I wondered why 6 years wasn't enough. I wondered why love wasn't enough. Then one evening something happened. Something small. But important. I was sitting alone in my apartment when I noticed a notebook lying on my table. Inside it were old goals I'd written years earlier. Dreams that had nothing to do with Ryan. Goals I'd forgotten. Career ambitions. Business ideas. Personal achievements. A version of myself that existed before I built my entire future around someone else. And for the first time in months, I felt something. Not happiness. Not yet. But determination. Maybe my life wasn't over. Maybe it was simply different. That night I made a decision. I would stop asking why Ryan left. I would stop comparing myself to Victoria. And I would start rebuilding. One day at a time. I enrolled in advanced marketing courses. Worked longer hours. Accepted projects others avoided. Learned new skills. Made new connections. Slowly, my confidence returned. Then opportunities started appearing. A promotion. A leadership role. A chance to join a fast-growing media company. I accepted every challenge. Every risk. Every opportunity. Because I had nothing left to lose. The heartbreak that nearly destroyed me became fuel. And over the next 3 years, my entire life transformed. While Ryan was busy building his dream life with Victoria, I was quietly building mine. And neither of us knew that fate was preparing one final reunion. A reunion neither of us would ever forget. 3 years changed everything. Not overnight. Not magically. But one decision at a time. One goal at a time, one difficult day at a time. The woman who cried herself to sleep after Ryan left slowly disappeared. In her place emerged someone stronger. Someone more confident. Someone who no longer measured her worth by whether a man chose her. My career exploded faster than I ever imagined. After joining the media company, I quickly moved into brand strategy and marketing leadership. I discovered something surprising. I was good at it. Really good. The same determination that helped me survive heartbreak helped me thrive professionally. Within 2 years, I was leading major campaigns for national brands. By year 3, I had become one of the youngest executives in the company. My life looked completely different. New city. New apartment. New friends. New dreams. Most importantly, a new version of myself. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy. Not because everything was perfect. But because I finally understood something important. Happiness isn't something another person gives you. It's something you build. The opportunity that changed everything arrived unexpectedly. A luxury fashion brand approached our company for a major campaign. The concept centered around successful women redefining beauty and confidence. The creative team needed a face for the campaign. Someone authentic. Someone relatable. Someone who represented transformation. To my complete shock, they chose me. At first I laughed. I wasn't a model. I wasn't an actress. I was a marketing executive. But the company insisted. The campaign wasn't about perfection. It was about empowerment. A month later, professional photographers filled a studio. Hairstylists. Makeup artists. Lighting crews. Cameras everywhere. The entire experience felt surreal. When the photos were finally released, I barely recognized myself. Not because of the makeup. Not because of the styling. But because I looked happy. Confident. Strong. The campaign launched nationally. Social media exploded. Magazines featured it. Advertisements appeared everywhere. Including one giant billboard in downtown Manhattan. I never imagined that billboard would become one of the most important moments of my life. Because on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, Ryan saw it. Ryan's life had looked perfect from the outside. At least that's what everyone believed. He married Victoria less than a year after leaving me. The wedding was extravagant. Luxury resort. Celebrity guests. Expensive everything. Photos flooded social media. People called them a power couple. A fairytale romance. But appearances can be deceptive. Very deceptive. The truth was far different. Victoria loved status, connections, influence, success. What she didn't love was sacrifice, or loyalty, or struggle. The qualities that matter when life becomes difficult. Ryan didn't understand that at first. He was too distracted by the lifestyle. The vacations. The luxury homes. The exclusive events. The image. Everything seemed perfect. Until problems appeared, and eventually they always do. Victoria expected constant success. Constant growth. Constant perfection. When Ryan's business ventures struggled, her support disappeared. Arguments became frequent. Resentment grew. Trust faded. The relationship that once seemed exciting slowly became exhausting. Meanwhile, Ryan began noticing something uncomfortable. The qualities he once admired in Victoria were the same qualities making him miserable. She wasn't his partner. She was his audience. As long as he succeeded, she applauded. The moment he struggled, she criticized. Over time, Ryan started remembering things. Small things. The way I supported him when he failed. The way I believed in him before anyone else did. The way I stayed. Even when life wasn't glamorous. Unfortunately, realization often arrives too late. And Ryan was about to learn that lesson. One rainy afternoon, he was driving through downtown Manhattan with Victoria beside him. Traffic crawled forward. The city lights reflected against the wet streets. Then Ryan looked up. And froze. There, above the buildings, towering over the city, was my face. Smiling. Confident. Successful. The giant billboard displayed my image alongside the campaign slogan, "Become the woman you were always meant to be." For several seconds, Ryan forgot how to breathe. According to someone who later told me the story, he nearly drove into another car. Victoria noticed immediately. "What are you staring at?" Ryan couldn't answer. Because he wasn't looking at a billboard. He was looking at the future he abandoned. The woman he underestimated. The life he threw away. And for the first time since leaving me, he truly understood the cost of his decision. That evening he searched for me online. Professional interviews. Magazine articles. Industry awards. Speaking engagements. Success after success after success. The more he discovered, the worse he felt. Because every achievement answered a question he never dared ask himself. What if leaving Emily was the biggest mistake of my life? The answer was becoming impossible to ignore. And soon, he would stop wondering. Because fate was preparing one final encounter. One neither of us could avoid. 3 weeks after the billboard campaign launched, I received an unexpected notification. A friend request. From Ryan. I stared at the screen for several seconds. Surprised. Confused. Amused. 3 years. No contact. No messages. Nothing. And suddenly there he was. Trying to re-enter my life. I declined the request. Without hesitation. Without emotion. Without regret. But Ryan wasn't finished. The next morning, I received a message. A message I never expected to see. "Emily, I know I probably don't deserve a response. But there's something I've needed to tell you for a long time." I read the first sentence. Then the second. Then the third. And by the time I reached the end, I realized something extraordinary. Ryan wasn't contacting me because he loved me, Ryan was contacting me because he regretted losing me. And those are two very different things. I stared at Ryan's message for a long time. Not because I didn't know what to think, but because I was surprised by how little I felt. 3 years earlier, seeing his name would have ruined my entire week. Now it barely affected my afternoon. That realization alone told me how much I had changed. Eventually, curiosity won. I opened the message. Ryan had written several paragraphs. He apologized for the pain he caused. For the humiliation. For the lies. For the way he ended our relationship. He admitted he handled everything terribly. He admitted he had been selfish, immature, short-sighted. And then came the part I already suspected. His marriage was falling apart. Of course it was. Not because I wished him harm, but because people rarely leave happy relationships for the right reasons. Most leave because they're chasing an illusion. And eventually reality catches up. Ryan explained that he and Victoria had separated months earlier. The relationship had become toxic. Constant arguments. Constant disappointment. Constant pressure. The fairy tale had ended. The dream life he chased turned out to be exactly that. A dream. And dreams don't survive reality very well. Then I reached the final paragraph. The real reason he had contacted me. I see now what I lost. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, Emily. I know I don't deserve another chance. But if there's any possibility of talking, I'd like to see you again. I sat back in my chair, reading the words twice. Then 3 times. 3 years ago, those words would have meant everything. Now they felt strangely empty. Because Ryan wasn't talking to the woman he left. That woman no longer existed. He was talking to the version of me that emerged afterward. The version built through heartbreak, growth, pain, and resilience. Ironically, the woman he wanted now only existed because he left. I didn't respond. Not that day. Not the next day. Or the day after. A week passed. Then another. Life continued. Meetings. Projects. Friends. Travel. The things that mattered. Eventually, another message appeared. Shorter this time. Please. Just one conversation. For reasons I still can't fully explain, I agreed. Not because I wanted him back. Not because I still loved him. But because some chapters deserve a proper ending. And maybe this was mine. We agreed to meet at a quiet restaurant. Neutral territory. No emotional history attached. No memories. No symbolism. Just 2 people sitting across from each other. When I arrived, Ryan was already there. The moment he stood up, I noticed how different he looked. Older. More tired. Less confident. Life had clearly humbled him. For a second, I remembered the man I once loved. The man from college. The man who carried my books through the rain. The man who dreamed beside me. But memories are powerful liars. They remind us of who someone was. Not who they chose to become. Ryan smiled nervously. Hi. Hi. We sat down. For a few moments, neither of us spoke, then Ryan finally broke the silence. You look amazing. I laughed softly. Not because I was flattered. Because the comment felt predictable. 3 years ago, he stopped seeing me. Now suddenly he couldn't stop looking. Funny how that works. For nearly an hour, Ryan talked. He apologized again. More sincerely this time. He took responsibility. Didn't make excuses. Didn't blame anyone else. To his credit, he seemed genuinely remorseful. And I respected that. But remorse and redemption aren't the same thing. Eventually, he looked directly at me. His voice barely above a whisper. I never stopped thinking about you. I held his gaze. Then asked the question that mattered. If that's true, why did you leave? Ryan's expression collapsed. Because there was no good answer. Only the truth. I thought I wanted something else. There it was. The entire tragedy reduced to one sentence. He thought. He assumed. He chased. And he lost. Not just me. Himself. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then he asked the question I knew was coming. Is there any chance we could try again? The restaurant suddenly felt very quiet. Ryan waited. Hope filling his eyes. Fear too. Because deep down, I think he already knew the answer. I took a slow breath. And prepared to say something I'd spent 3 years learning. Chapter 11, The Answer. Ryan. His eyes locked onto mine. I forgive you. The relief on his face appeared instantly. But it disappeared just as quickly when I continued. I forgive you. But that doesn't mean I want you back. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable silence. I could see the heartbreak forming in his expression. The same heartbreak I once carried. The same heartbreak he gave me. I've changed, he said quietly. I know. And I'm not that person anymore. I know. Then why not? The question wasn't angry. Just desperate. And maybe that's what made it sad. I smiled gently. Not because I hated him. Because I didn't. Not anymore. Because the woman you left had to become someone else to survive. Ryan looked down. I continued. The version of me that loved you unconditionally doesn't exist anymore. Tears filled his eyes. For the first time, I realized he finally understood. Not just what he lost. But when he lost it. Not 3 years ago. Not at the billboard. Not when his marriage failed. He lost me the moment he chose someone else. Everything afterward was simply consequences. I wish things were different, he whispered. I nodded. So do I. And I meant it. Not because I wanted him back. But because I wished none of it had happened. I wished he had valued what he had. I wished we hadn't hurt each other. I wished life were simpler. But wishing doesn't change reality. And reality was standing right there between us. A bridge burned long ago. When we left the restaurant, Ryan hugged me goodbye. One final time. One final chapter. One final ending. Then we walked in opposite directions. And that was it. No dramatic reunion, no second chance. No romantic ending. Just closure. Real closure. The kind people rarely get. Months later, I heard Ryan moved to another city. Started over. Focused on rebuilding his life. I genuinely hoped he succeeded. Not because he deserved another chance with me. Because everyone deserves the opportunity to become better. As for me, life kept moving forward. New opportunities. New adventures. New love. Yes. Eventually, I met someone. Someone kind. Someone loyal. Someone who didn't need to lose me to understand my value. And when he looked at me, I never wondered whether I was enough. Because the right person doesn't make you compete for a place in their life. They choose you. Every day. Without hesitation. Without conditions. Without regret. Looking back now, people often ask if I regret losing Ryan. The answer surprises them. No, I don't. Because losing Ryan forced me to find myself. And the woman I became was worth meeting. In the end, the billboard wasn't my revenge. The success wasn't my revenge. The rejection wasn't my revenge. The best revenge was healing. The best revenge was happiness. The best revenge was building a life so fulfilling that the person who left became just another chapter. Not the whole story. And that, more than anything else, is how I knew I had finally won. The end. Heavy black heart.